We're starting on Amud Mem Zayin, in the 4 lines up from the paragraph that enters into the page, line beginning Da'atzilus, in the middle of the line, just at the end, just after we just finished hagaha Yud Gimel. So we've spoken about Arichas over 2 long hagahos, hagaha Ches and Tes. The inyan of how the kelim of Atzilus are nivroim yesh ma'ayin, or netzolim yesh ma'ayin, yeah? And then we talked about the Oir. We explained how Atzilus is Miloshin Yud Bashbola, and Al Derech Atzilus Ruchi Shal Moshe, that the Madrega of Moshe was Yerid, the Matrim, to the Madrega B'chusa. And from that Madrega B'chusa, that was stage 1, and there was a stage 2. Everything was split into 2 stages. Stage 1, stage 2 was from that could be a ha'ara b'meya onto the Shivim Skenim. So derech ze l'mayla, that you have the Eirin Tzeish of Tzimtzum, and like according to the third Yesh Leimar, talking about even the Eir, which is called in the Ma'ir, and it has all milas of Ma'ir. That is also Yerid Nimshach, to become Tachtoinish B'matzil, Pnimius HaKesa. And from there, Ha'ara is Nimshach to become the Eiros of Atzilus. Yeah? That was basically where we're up to. We're now going to go into a shtickle from a line, maamer a line from the Alter Rebbe. And we're going to be mavaya that you might think from where we're at now, because if you go back, if you remember quite a few hagahos back, we discussed how ein areich atzilus legabi l'mayla me'atzilus, yeah, yes mi she'ein areich asiyah legabi atzilus, ein areich atzilus legabi ein seif. And we were talking then about the kelim, and we were explaining that, as we explained that kelim are netzolim yesh ma'ayin, ashelachein they have their mamash be'ein areich, yesh and ayin is be'ein areich. But like what we've said now, you might think that the Eir is Lefiarech. It's Taka Lefiarech. The Ha'ara, which is Nimshach from the Tachtoinish of Matzil, which becomes the Eiris of Atzilus, they are Taka Be'erech. And you wouldn't say, you might think from what we said now, that Taka Yosa in Areich Asil Legabi Atzilus, mi Atzilus Legabi Ein Seif. If we're talking about the Eir. We're going to explain now in the next hagaha, the final hagaha of the Ois, hagaha Yud Dalet, that it's not the case. Even the Eir is be'ein areich. Okay? So let's go. Okay? So that's the sahakal from what we've explained, ba'arichas, that when it comes to Atzilus ha'eiris, it's a Yerid of Ashbala. Today, there's the ha'ara should be able to be nimshach mislabish in the kelim of Atzilus in chachma, kliya chachma. V'hainu lefi sha'chachma in arich klal legabi ha'atzmus. When we say the word atzmus here, we mean the Eirin Seif. So chachma, the kli ha'chachma, he is taka be'in arich. L'chein is lapshus ha'Eirin Seif b'chachma hu b'v'chinas yirida. For the Chachma to be Yerid and be able to be Nimshach Mislabish, Chach nicht in Eifen von Tfisa, as we said in the previous hagahos, aber afal pikein Eifen von Islapshus, in a gewisse Maß, to some extent, to an extent that we had that is not Islapshus mamish, Eifen of Tfisa, like we said in the previous hagahos. But in order for there to be the Islapshus of this Eirin Seif and Chachma in the way that it is, who bechinis Yerida? Then it bechinis Ha'ara Levad, Sheyarda and Atzalim, Islabish bechinis Chachma. Has to be this Ha'ara is a Yerida mamish. In order you don't, if the Tachtoinish, where is the Tachtoinish b'matzil? Like we've explained now, if the Tachtoinish b'matzil, the Pnimius HaKesa, is a Ha'atoka, it's Pasha a copy of Eirin Seif Shnei Tzimtzum, and nish no ispashusay, no etzemay, and nish no etzemay, etzemay commercial kolu b'moy, and has all the milas of moy. Kecha Isavus, Metzius Miatzmusi, Akim Atzmi, then it's Bein Arich. Das ist Taka the Ayin. It's Taka an Ayin. She's no shaykhs to the yesh of the kingdom of Atzilus. But so in order for there to be an oir that comes from such an ayin and is able to be mislabish in those kelim, that's mamash yirida v'ashpala. It's already a huge the Atzilus ruchish al meisha, the Atzilus ha'iris through the malchus the ein sof being yid v'nimshach al madregas tachtenish b'matzil. That's already a yirida, and it has to be vayta yirida. The ha'ara has to be in such an oifen that it's shaykh to be able to mislabish in the kelim. Yeah. And now we're going to explain how that is and the implications of that. What is the extent of that yirida? The extent of that yirida is such that you would even say lagabi the oiris that yos misha ein arich asi lagabi atzilus ein arich atzilus lagabi ein seif. Even lagabi the oiris, as we're going to see. Hinei mashnis ba'kan she yos misha ein arich asi lagabi atzilus ein arich atzilus lagabi ein seif. Hainu bechinas hakelim da atzilus. Canal. This is what we explained before in the previous hagahos. The kelim are netzolim yesh ma'ayin, shelachein they're bein arich. Avla oir, but how do we understand oir? What is the taich oir? Hariu dovik mekeri vu me'ei mekeri chuli k'mishkosim ha'gmachim and yisbo gam kinil. Right? That's the tchunas oir. Dovik mekeri me'ei mekeri. So it has all of this. It's not bein arich. It's something which is me'ei makeri, it's be'ei arich makeri. So that's what we think. So that's how we would think things are till now. Everything we've explained till now would leave us in a matzav where the kelim ataka in arich, and there's a gresser erech of atzil lagabi kelim datzilus, and there is that kelim atzilus lagabi erin seif. But lagabi the oiris, we wouldn't say that because oiris mean amoir, it's davik moir, it's ha'ara taka, it's a yirida. Yirida is einzach, but you're not going to say it's got a more of a shaykhis to Asir than it had to you and me than it does to Erin Seif. That's what you think. However, tzarich loima, you need to say no. The gam bechinas ha'oir shemeir be'eses virus d'atzilus im ha'yesu davik mekeirei, notwithstanding the fact that it is attached. Notwithstanding the inyan advekus, it's still bein arich. Be'eina doime la'eira atzilus shenimshach be'eses firis debiyah shemavu b'mokim acher shehu b'derech ishtalshus ilavalu. It's not comparable. The formation, the ha'atzola of the eir of atzilus is not comparable to the emanating, the forming of the iris of the esospheres of biyah, like we explained somewhere else. There it's taka b'derech ishtalshus ilavalu. If you have ishtalshus ilavalu, we explained ba'arichas in the previous hagahos, the olul is lefi erech ha'ila, because the olul is nichlod ba'etzim in the ila, and the ila is mechayeves as a olul, and that's taka hezber of all of the ishtalshus ha'iris of biyah. Yeah. That's the Seder. But the Eir HaChachma, the Eir HaBinah, all the Eiris of Atzilus, they are not formed. They're not nishtalshul derech ila v'olul from the Eir in Seif Lifnei Atzilus. That's not the manner in which they come about. Yeah. The mash is habes biyab me bechinas malchus da atzilus ubederich briyesh me ayin hainu bechinas hayesh de biyah. When we talk about briyesh me ayin, olam habriya being nivra from malchus da atzilus, what are we talking about over there? We're talking about the kelim. Behem bechinas hakelim de biyah, the yesh of biyah. So yesh me ayin. What is yesh? The kelim are yesh. You can say also about ruach nefesh. Fine. And he's going to say a difficult This is not an inyan of tzimtzum, but hefsek, it's a tzimtzum b'derech parsa. She's boile kamon, which is going to be explained later. It's going to be a major sugya much later in the Ein Hey or something. What was it? Ein Daled, yeah, Ein Hey. But it's Shu beginnes hefseke erarish and the dabim minyanim achein mainly is isavis dovishlim musam have. I'm not going to get into it. Abu beginnes ha'oir hu bederech ishtalshlos ilabalo. When we talk about Briyash Me'ayin, you say the ishtalshlos from Atzilus to Biyah, we're talking about the Kalim. When it comes to the oir is nishtalshul bederech ilabalo. Ulufi mashi yisboy lekamon gam bechinas isavis hakelim eina doim Atzilus lebiyah. Shezo havesh ben Simpson the pasha yisboy lechem yisa ina reich Atzilus chuli. Again, this is all later. Maybe when we do it later, we'll come back here and you'll see the Reichkeit to the Isius. But at the moment, it's going to get in the way. So, our first point is that the Eiris of Atzilus, and Bichlal, the Seder Shtalshlus HaEiris from Atzilus to Biyah is B'derech Ila Ba'alu. Everything we say about Briyash Ma'ayin, we're talking about the Kalim Bik. And therefore, there's Taken Erech, Chochmah Atzilus to Chochmah Biyah. Because Chochmah Biyah is Nishtalshul from there. So there's Taken Erech. Commission Kosu, but there are Masu Yimachmini Atzeres, Shachayus Haruchni Gam Lamato, who Bederech Ishtalshlus Ilava Olu Mi Chochmah Atzilus Chuli Yunsha. If you look in this Maim Dal Rebbe, you'll see that as Mamish Neilam Asiyah, if you have an Inyan Ruchni, it's Nishtalshul all the way back to Chochmah Atzilus.
Talked about Neshamas as well.
Okay. I'm bringing the Neshamas to the moment. Just about Eiris. Kol Zeh Me'atzilus Lebiyah. So that's in all Elamis. From Elamis Abiyah, there's the Shtalshlus HaEidris, B'derech Ila Ba'al. Avol Me'atzmus Eirin Seif L'Atzilus. But from the Eirin Seif L'Atzilus, Eina B'derech Shtalshlus Ila Ba'al. The Ei which we were talking about, the Tachdeina Sheba Matzil, Nimis HaKesa. From there to be an Eir HaChochma, that doesn't happen with Derech Ila Ba'al. V'hainu, Dam Shochas Ha'ir Ma'atzilus, Lebiyahu B'derech Pasim Levat. Did I just skip something? No. Yeah. When you have Atzilus, the way it's transferred from, or it evolves, or it emanates, whatever you want to use, Nimshach, from Atzilus to Biyah is B'derech Parsa. Aval Amshachas Ha'ir Me'erin Seif L'Atzilus Hu Al Yidei Tzimtzum. Shu B'chinas Hefsek V'Helem Eir Harishim Legamri Sh'nichnol B'Hamoir Chuli Mesh Yisboi. The Oifen Hatzolas Ha'Eiris is an Oifen of Tzimtzum. Das heißt, the Eir is Nelom Legamri B'Mekeri. So v'yesh leim, we're going to explain. V'yesh leim al pima shekos mokim acher b'inyin gilu eir hakav sheyesh by beis hafachim. We talk bechlal about eir hakav, which we learn by Arichas in Ranat. That in truth there are two seemingly contrasting, contradictory, opposing characteristics of the kav. Dimayois shegilu hakav u'b'chinas gilu ha'helem shedovek m'mekeirevu me'ein ha'helem. Which is all the things we said at the beginning of this paragraph. Lagabi eir bechlal, mikol moknu gam ki mechudesh, shubchinas ha'or nidalas. If you remember from the Ranat, there it wasn't talking about kav, bein keser la'atzilus. There it was talking about kav, bein eirin seif lifnei atzimtzum, and ak. Reishis hakav being in
was where it was all based around, right?
Yeah, that was where you get ayin, and that's when you get yesh. So the kav, mitzad echod is dovuk, and all these things we had in Yemashmini Atzeres, which Again, I will repeat. If you learn Miyim Shmini Atzeres Anat well, all doors are open to you. So here it's talking a different matter. It's the same. It's the same svara, same ideas. Yeah. Okay. Now we have to figure this out. How on earth does an oir, if an oir is dofik, and an oir is mein makiri, how at the same time is it a hard and a delis? You either attached or you're detached. How are you attached and detached at the same time? Chase the question. Because at the moment we haven't explained anything. We've just stated. We've a lot of these last few hagos, it's been much more less explanatory and much more. It's more been yediyas hametzius than hasagas hametzius. The maamer itself hasn't given you helped you too much. You also have to know.
If you understood it all already, this will make perfect sense.
No, it's not that point. The point is, you have to know what you need to understand. So, at the moment we're talking quite technically, but we have here a core problem that we want it to be oir, and all the milas. We're talking in the rekanti. We're not even talking according to the mareches, where we have a lot more leeway about hagbol in the oir and all these different things. Talking about an oir which is pashrut, yeah. And have none of the hagbola and the definition of the kelim. But even this oir, this ha'ara, this oir hakav, oir in seif, whatever you want to call it, this oir is be'ein arech l'gab the oir in seif shifnei atzilus. And so we need to try and explain that. And the truth is, he's not going to explain it too much. He's going to describe it. But let's see what this description has for us. For inyan hu din yedua the havaya hu mekeir ha'eris. Okay, havaya is the mekeir ha'eris. Havaya benigud to Elikim. The havaya is an oifen of gil yud kei vav kei got tzimtzum ispashtus. Yeah, hamshacha. Pashtus. So the shem itself is meira al inyan haiskalus, and is the moker ha'iris. And eksiv ayikra avaya avaya upsiktaimu begavaya. So it says in the pasuk avaya avaya by the Gimel Sarachamim, and there is a psik in between them, separating one avaya from the other havaya. So okay, you do it. The Beis Shem is Havaya, him Shem Avayda le'Eila, v'Shem Avayda le'Sato. So Apikabola, we have this union of Avayda le'Eila, Avayda le'Sato. Shem Avayda le'Eila, b'china Shem Avayda shebe'erin seif shlifnei atzimtzum. The Gilui ha'Eiris of the Gilui, the Eir Ein Seif, which is the Gilui of Ein Seif, lifnei atzimtzum, in all of its manifestations, Etzema is Pashtus Eir, the base Madrikas is Pashtus Eir. Those are all Shem Avayda le'Eila. Nimshach, yeah. As the Omar, actually, Nivra Eilam Hayahu Shmei Levad. Before the Bria Ha'Elam before the Tzimtzum Arishain, it's just Hu Ushmei Bilvad. Hainu Masha Eirin Seif Atzmus Mohus Nis Eir Berotzen Alis Havas Ha'Elam is a Chlodis Ishtashlos Mirish Kol Dargin At Seif Kol Dargin. The Hu Ushmei Bilvad. Why is there also Shmei? Why is there also Eirin Seif? Because that was where it was Nis Eir the Rotzen. You're going to learn about Hashem Samachei, all about the Gimel Dargis in Ratzin, Lifnei Tzimtzum, which maps on to Etzem Eir, Spashus Eir, and the two Madrigas in Spashus Eir. U'kamesha Kosu B'Zeya B'Reish Hu Menisa de Malka. At the beginning of the Eibish's Ratzin, talk about the Eibish's, the king's will. It's not yet B'Poyel. It's all in the Hash'ara. What the Eibish's Messiah is the Eilamus are going to look like, but it's before any Brias Eilamus. So who Ushmei Bilvad? Beis Chaim, what does it say? It's Chaim Sha'ol B'Ritzayna HaPoshet, use of the Lashon. So all there is just Aliyas HaRotzin. There's no Bria B'Poyel. No Mishem Havaya Zeh, Lo Ya'ef Sha'adayin Lisis Havis B'Poyel, Lish Zeh Rak Ma Sha'ol B'Ritzayna B'Eirin Seif Atzmus U'Mahushla, Ma'ila Ma'ila Meged Eilamis. By Nimshach Misham Sfiris Adin Caves, Va'adin Misbo, Even Achel Gamri Chuli. So it says in the if it would have been left at that, in that rotzing, in the Eirin Seishlif, now Tzimtzum, then you would have had Sfiras Adin Kates. Everything would have been, we would have had the Hagbala and the definition which we have in Eilamis. Arba Eilamis, Esa Sfiras, Chuli. B'chtei sheyis avos Eilamis b'poyel, u'b'chinas Esa Sfiras, Esa V'leitesha, so dafki m'shem avayda l'sato, shul mashe bo begilu l'achar tzimtzum. That's the psik time of Begavayu, that's the tzimtzum that separates the avayda l'eila avayda l'sato. So we've just, what have we explained? We've just said this inyan that we've expressed, which, I mean, till now we were saying the segregation of the two musogim is in Eirin Seish Lifnei Atzilus and Atzilus, and now we've just moved a bit higher between Eirin Seish Lifnei Atzilus and Eirin Seish La'achar Atzilus. Okay, just generalized it a bit more. And we've called that Avaydal Eila, but we've used some Kabbalistic terminology and symbolism that explains, we refer to this as Avaydal Eila and this Avaydal Sato, and you have this muslik of psik time of a Gavayu. There is a separation between these two things. Okay? The Zeu Inyan Havaya Loshem Mahava. And this is why Havaya is a Loshen of Mahava. When we say Yud Kei Vav Kei, it's from the verb to be, and an ofen of the Yud at the beginning indicates the activity of being Mahava. The function of Havaya is to create. This is in Tanya. Shemimenu nimshach is havas ha'elamis, v'asfiras b'bechinas oiris v'kelim. How does Havaya fulfill that role? Hainu lefi shenimshach al yidei hatzimtzum, lachein hariu bo b'bechinas oiris lefi oifen ha'elamis shubegeder maki le'elamis asfiras. Because Havaya, which Havaya, Havaya the Sato, comes l'achar hatzimtzum, and is therefore able to be lefi oifen ha'elamis, unlike the Eirin Seish Lifnei Atzimtzum, the Havaya le'elam. Neshem Havaya habo begilui ein davar chodesh beikari. This Havaya de la Sato, the Eirin Seish la'achar hatzimtzum, yeah, is not a davar chodesh beikari. It's not a completely new thing. Ki im shabam yehelem ela gilui levad. Didn't come from nowhere. There was already a hashara b'koyach. There was an aliyas harotz, and there should be an olam. So it's not like it came from nowhere. That there should be an oy, which is lefi erech ha'elamis. Taka, there was already such an inyan. Uklolas ishtalshus meireish kol dargin ad seif kol dargin hakol ha'yukol b'rotzin. Everything was going to come later. Hakol ola b'machshavtei. It was all nichol b'harotzin. The moshel we give about building a house, a person has a hash, and imagines how his house is going to look. He has a hashara, this room and that room, and then b'poil. It was all nichol b'harotzin. Umishum shenis eirabatz musti b'chlodos ishtalshlus chem bo Hashem Havaya begilu yachakach la'achratzim niyis bo b'idei poil masha ola b'ritzon yisborach b'kev chelim. Because there was an aliyas harotzin. And the Eibush was azoi gevol, there should be such a his avis ha'elamis. That's why b'poil there was a Havaya l'sata. There was an Eirin Seish Shaba Achar Tzimtzum, which was b'poil mahava ha'elamis. The im came. Hari agilu the shem Havaya ain't a chudash beikari. Can't call it a chidush beikari. It's not something that's entirely novel. Ki im me'helem el agilu levad. It's being megala what was already there behelem. But since it only came about in a manner of tzimtzum, you can still call it mechudash. So on the one hand, it's takanat mechudash. On the other hand, it didn't come about in a Seder Masuda of Yerida Me'ahelem El Agilu. like a normal Helam Begilui.
Surely the only reason why it couldn't come about through that type of Yerida is because it's not Shaita, that type of Yerida, because it's not that type of A.
Okay.
We're saying, really it's Shaykh to Ilib Olo, but it wasn't through Ilib Olo.
You didn't say, yeah, but you say it. We're trying, you're right, we're trying to do something very difficult over here. We're trying to say, Mitzad Echad, it has Dveikus, it's Me'ima Keira, and all these things, it has all these qualities of A. On the other hand, we want to say it's Nivdal. You're right. We're dancing around this issue. Sort of saying it in other, we haven't said anything new, really. We're saying the same thing with a few more ACS, no?
Mm-hmm. It's hagaha. Right.
No, before was also the hagaha. What we said before was also from the hagaha.
Mm-hmm.
So let's keep going. The Inyan at Tzimtzum who hefsek v'hed legamri. Taich Tzimtzum is not Tzimtzum derech miut. Here we're talking about Tzimtzum derech siluk, derech hefsek. There's a hepech mi Inyan giloi helam. It's mamish the opposite of taking something which behelam be megalit. You're taking something which was begilui, to a certain extent. The Aaron Seishon Tzimtzum was begilui la'atzmai. And you're causing it to be behelim now. Instead of being megala something which is behelim, you're being minor something which is begilui. The whole gilui me'ahelim hu shaba b'seidah hadraga. When we talk about gilui ahelim, when we talk about ilav alul, we're talking about something which is b'seidah hadraga. Because he only said this. Because we explained the alul is nichlol b'ha'ilah, and the ilah is mechayeves as alul, and it makes sense that this should be nimshach from that. So it's b'seidah b'adraga. The manner in which it's taka gilo ehel, but in a completely alternative format of being megala ahelim than is ordinarily the case. It's b'derech diluk, it's b'derech hefsek. You do the gila akavu hamshacha bebechinas diluk. We use the lashon diluk, so it's not seder b'hadraga. Walking is seder b'hadraga. Diluk is a moshel to explain something which is shaloi b'seder b'hadraga. B'ainu lefi hamshacha alidei tzimtzum shaloi b'seder b'hadraga shekod me'aheder u'mishum zeh shaykh likreisi mechudash. That's why you can call it something. No, it has this, characteristic of being something new. What is the chiddush about? The chiddush of the Havai de L'Sato, the chiddush of the Ein Aseish L'Achra Tzimtzum, is that now it can be a moki v'shtashlus v'savos, which in the Ein Aseish L'Tzimtzum was not shaykh. It wasn't shaykh to be a moki. All we're saying livers ha'elim is Rosha ein ha'elim yechol iskayim. The world were unable to be sovel to tolerate the gilu that Ein Aseish L'Tzimtzum. So it couldn't be it wasn't able to be a moki l'shtalshlus v'savos. The Ein Aseish L'Achra Tzimtzum is a moki to l'shtalshlus v'savos. That's a chiddush. The Inyan Habriya Shaboy is not a chiddush, because that was in the Ein Aseish L'Achra Tzimtzum. There was a Oliver saying Livris Ha'elamis, so that there should be Brias Ha'elamis is not a chiddush, but there should be an Eid which is capable of Brias Ha'elamis. That was a chiddush. And in order for there to be an Eid which was capable of Brias Ha'elamis, there needed to be not just a Gila Ha'elam, because you'd have the same problem. It would be overwhelming. Like we've been learning around that the Ayin, the Yechuda Ilah of the Ein Aseish Tzimtzum, was not going to be Seivel any Metzias Hayesh.
She needed a Halam of the Gili, so to speak. And that was its Gili.
And that provided sort of the circumstances where it was plausible that there should be an Eir in Seif which could be a Moki of his Havas Eilamis. But it has to be an Eir which is Dovuk, which is the Ein Makere, because if it doesn't have any of those qualities, it can't create, because who can create? Only the Eibishter can create. So it needs to have this Dovuk v'hipuche. To be Dovuk, u'mitzat sheni, to be Nivdal. We're trying to, give Isis to that. Okay, top of Memtes. It now became an Eir which was shaykh to be Pa'ala Pa'ula. This takes you back to Yechiyenim Yomayim Ranat. Chol Pa'ula hu chutz la'etzem. Da etzem eine b'chtei lifel ve'ene begeder Pa'ula. With Lashon Ranat ve'ene begeder Pa'ula lifel. That the Isha who has the Keich Atzmi, she's not begeder Pa'ula lifel. Because if it's Atzmi, it's not shaykh l'chutz. And Atzmi is not fazich. Atzmi is, we know the difference between the Atzmi and a Gilui, is that the Atzmi is not bothered by the Zulas. It's not Tevis Mokim the Zulas. The only thing that's Tevis Mokim is Ich. It's self-sustaining. To do something, to do anything, is b'shaychus to a Zulas. So it's b'chal not shaykh to an Etzem, an Inyan Atzmi. Dafka an Oir is shaykh to be a Pa'ula. So we said in Ranat, in Yechiyenim Yomayim, that is the role of the Mashpia, of the father. He is Ma'ir the Keich HaYilada Be'isha. Because it's Eina Begeder Pa'ula Lifa. And then when we went to L'chol Tichler Ranat, he had this playing out when they get to Seviv Mamala, that Mamala is Megala, the Inyan Atzmi Shabaguf and the Gashmias, the Keich HaSeviv, which is Eina Begeder Pa'ula Lifa. So similarly over here, the Eidin Seiv, Shivnat Simsum, is all the Atzmi. Even this Pashas Ha'eir, which is Shaykh El Azulas, is still a Gilui La'atzmi. It's not Begeder, a Pa'ula Chutz La'etzem. There has to be a Tzimtzum. ומה שנמשך ממנו לפעל הוא חוץ לעצם וכולי כמי שגוס מוקים אחר. And that is what was nischadish. That there should be an Eir which would be able to be Pa'il B'riyas HaIlamis. Eir and Seishon Netzim was never going to be able to be B'riyas HaIlamis. Why? Because it's an Atzmi. It doesn't do Pa'ulas Chutz La'etzem. Taka would have been B'riyas HaIlamis. Beira Elam is Machrivon. They would have been destroyed. Because they would have been all nichel in the ayin. Nothing would have escaped the Etzem. Nothing Taka escapes the Etzem with the Moin, but the Moin is Ba'alim. So K'moiken Yuvan Khan. So too we can understand what's going on over here. Ta'oirin Seishlev Natzim Sumari B'chinas Atzmi. Ula Zeis Kam B'chinas Yisraelis HaRotzim Ba'atzmusi Kiv Yochel Shnis Eir B'rotna Klov Zishtalshus V'Sabus. The bederach klal b'chinas is pashtus ha'oir, commission is spoiler, shish ba'oir, b'chinas etzem, v'is pashtus chuli, ein begeder pa'ula lifa. The einus ish netzim is not shaykh to be beira ilamis. Shay actually is mimenu is havas ha'ilamis, ukanal, shay nimshach mimenu spheres adding kates, even achale gamrish, and you b'chinas ein say mamish, everything would still be ein say. The kavon el yoino, the rotzing, that there should be tak a metzias nivdelas, was mufrach legamri. We beginnen Eir Atzmi Adayin, wo beginnen ein Soi, wo beginnen Blik wo Mamish. Weil die Idee hat Simsum is Chadish Ha'Eir, beginnen Ha'Arre, da Ha'Arre, Shabba Beseide, Va'adragel, Fi Eifon Ha'Elameis, Lifo Kol Ha'Ishtalshus V'Isabas. And that is the function of Isabas Ha'Eir, Shla'achar HaTzimsum, Shabba that it could be able to be a Mokke, V'Reishis Ha'Ishtalshus, V'Nimtza. So what's the conclusion for this? The yesh begilui hakav shnei inyonim hofchim. Talk about gilui hakav. The eidin seish la'achra tzimtzum. There are two contrasting aspects to it. The be'ikare fundamentally Ein Mechudesh. The concept, what is the Eirakav? Eirakav is not a Mechudesh. It's not something that was, it's not Yesh Me'ai, it's not something that was not Shaykh before. It was Taka Shaykh before. It was Taka, there was a whole Aliyas HaRotzim for this. Everything that the Kav is about to do, to be Beira Ilamis, was all Meshai B'Kayach in the Erin Seif Shlifnei Atzim. So it's not Mechudesh. Ubechinas Gilu Mi'ahelam Levad. It's being Megala, all of the Inyanim Shlifnei Atzim. Megala, all of the Inyanim Shlifnei Atzim. But the fact that it's able to do that and pull it off, das is a chidush. Das is a chidush. Since that's what it is fundamentally, are you be'erech ha'helem? Shu me'ei mekeire. Hu bezeh is chadish, hainu pu'ulasoi, har yu ke'ein yesh me'ayim. Ve'ein arich legabi mekeire klal. So when we think about the kav, mitzad echod is tak, seems like it has an erech. Mitzad sheni, it seems like it's be'ein arich. Depends what is mudgush. It's inyan that it's gila halam, or it's inyan that it's a mechudesh. When we say v'yoyse mimasha in arecha oir de biyah legabi atzilus, ein areich ha'oir da atzilus v'ainu klolus gila hakav legabi ein seif shnei atzimsum. Why? Ki ha'oir ha'nimshach me'atzilus lebiyah ein al yidei hefsek ve'hedekim al yidei parsa. Aber hanimshach me'ein seif shnei atzimsum atzilus hu al yidei hatzimsum. Shrin hefsek ve'hedel legamrish ba yidei zeh bechinas oir mechudesh chuli. So it's this aspect of the Eirakav, which is a mechudesh, that it becomes a Reish Mokil and Atzolim. That is a inyan, that's a chidush that's able to be a Reish Mokil and Atzolim. So the mitzad that it's Bein Arich. And when you go from the Reish, when you go from Chochmah Atzilus to all of the Madregas and Biyah, is B'Hishtalshus Derech Ilav Ha'olam, the Eir. But the Kav is B'derech Ein Arich Legav the Ein Seif Shlifnei Atzimtzum. Und fi ze mashi is boile kamon bahadrush ha hefresh bein tzimtzum le parsa koy al beis ha-bechinnus de eiris v'kelim de abiyah. Okay, again, we'll deal with that later when we talk about the difference between tzimtzum and parsa in the eins. V'lochein, back to the Alter Rebbe. Nikra es, this is going to take you right back to the beginning of the maamer. Nikra es sfiris da atzilus asati kunin shein bechinas levushim la eirin seif v'loy atzmius. Right? The essence is the Atzilus, meaning the Kalim of Atzilus, they're called Tikkunin. Tikkunin is Miloshin Levush, because they are a Levush La'edin Seif, and they are not the Atzmius of Eidin Seif. Mikol Mokim, Ein on Levushim Mamish, Ela Tikkunin. What type of Levush? A Levush which we call a Tikkun. Mishum, the Iyu V'gamu Ichad, because there is Mamish, this is according to the Rekanti, Dafke, because there's such a his achdus of the Eiris and the Kalim, so they call Tikkunim. Masha Enkim Biyah Kanal, but Biyah is not. Biyah is like a Levush Nifrit. Yeah?
Yeah.
So that takes us to the end of Hagah Yud Daled and the end of Eis Gimel. Eis Beis. Eis Gimel is relatively short, Daled is long, and Hey Vav and Zayin is relatively short. But yeah, that will do for now.